Hi, everybody. Hello, everybody. And we're back for another episode of Coffee and Geography. And we're back with another climate ambassador. And we're back with another one I've roped in from my own region of the east of England, Dr. Jonny Ruffell. Good afternoon or morning or whatever it is. It's whatever people are listening to. It's whatever day of the time of day it is. But how are you doing?
Good day, everyone. Yeah, I'm very well. Glad to be talking to you today.
Yeah, whatever day it is for you folks listening, good day to you. Sometimes, the kind of like the live nature. I don't do this live. Maybe one day I'll do a live stream, but for now, it's like good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whoever you may be. So let's let's introduce Jonny then. So Jonny is a climate ambassador and energy transition consultant at Opergy Net Zero. I got stuck on keep saying Opergy for a while until I managed to get it click in my brain. It should be Opergy. Anyway, Opergy Net Zero is based near Colchester in Essex, in the east of England. After a decade learning and doing chemistry in various forms, including lubricants for cars, greener chemistry and agri-chemicals, Jonny now focuses on energy and what that means for people and planet. Jonny works with businesses, industrial clusters and communities to assess their current impact to develop actionable solutions to help them reduce emissions. And outside of work, he loves everything outside, including everything food related, including growing, cooking and eating it. And you say you like a good cup of coffee.
I love a good cup of coffee. Got one right here in front of me.
Got one right. So what are you drinking then? Which is your coffee of choice?
Well, I thought I'd go down the chemistry route with this one and add something special in the freezer, which I've cracked out for this.
Ooh.
So this is a little packet from Square Mile Roastery in London.
Square Mile Roastery,
which is James Hoffman, who's the Don of coffee on YouTube. And this is one of 4 packets of coffee in there. It's the exact same coffee, and 3 of them have been decaffeinated in different ways. So one using ethyl acetate, which was my favorite solvent back in the chemistry lab. One using a traditional water-based process called the Swiss water process, and one using CO2, which was an ironically green alternative to solvents that they use for coffee and we used to use in the lab as well when I was in York.
Right, that's it, folks. We've solved the climate crisis. Just capture all the CO2 and use it for this coffee process. That's it. We've done it.
Solved. We go home now.
Right. Okay. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll be back. Well, okay. No. You're not getting away with this one. Come and tell us. I mean, people are now listening, going, "How does that work? Do you know the process behind it?" I mean, you don't have to be too detailed, but
I know a little bit about some of them. So my favorite one, I think, is probably the CO2 process, which is, ironically, good because you can use CO2, you can pressurize it, and then it turns into a liquid, or you can go even further in a tiny bit of heat and it goes supercritical as well, which is an interesting mixture of liquid and gas properties. And it becomes an amazing solvent, and it's really, really good at taking out caffeine. It just dissolves caffeine really, really well. Okay. So you can flow this through your coffee, or in York, we did other work, say add some on coffee grounds when they've been used, or sugarcane waste to get some interesting waxes off the leaves that could be useful. And this solvent is just fantastic for dissolving caffeine. Flush it through your coffee beans a few times, and then to get rid of your solvent, as opposed to normal solvents that you have to heat up and flow some air over them maybe to get that solvent to evaporate. CO2 is the gas, right? So when you take the pressure off, it just releases and you get left with your lovely decaffeinated coffee.
So it's completely, so the way that all these kind of like geoengineering folks and like big industrialist folks are approaching the climate crisis, they got it completely wrong. You just need to stick one of these places where you grow coffee or process coffee, and then take CO2, use it to decaffeinate. And then, of course, it's not just coffee, is it? You could do it with your Coca-Cola or whatever like that, although there's other environmental issues with that, so
so currently CO2 is used a lot by various industries, including just bottling stuff, and that's currently produced in not very friendly ways, but we can do better.
Every day is a school day, folks. Wow, that is. We are only 5 minutes 30 seconds into this chat, and that is amazing. It is a mic drop moment this early in the podcast. So, folks, it's all down here from now. No, it seriously is. There's the amount of stuff that Johnny and I is going to talk about is really, really cool. So, Johnny,
This is going
so
to be
you're
a wild conversation.
it's going to be a wild, wild ride. So we are down there in Essex. You're actually from around my neck of the woods. So regular listeners know I'm from Harlow or Arlo. So originally, so just along the A41, the A12 and A414 from you. But are you an Essex boy through and through? Are you an Essex lad, or have you come to Essex via various routes in different parts of the country?
Very much through and through. Born just down the road from where I am now. I was born in Harwich, the famous old port town of Harwich, but I did leave for a bit, so I left to go to study chemistry at York, and I did a total of 10 years in York. Amazing city, really beautiful, and some amazing chemistry going on in the department there. I left in the middle of that to go and do an industrial placement, which is where the automotive and car lubricants comes in. And then eventually, decided to come back towards home, and I now live near Colchester. I had a great time.
I got a question for you, right? It's I suppose it's somewhat personal, but I'm just intrigued it, right? So I couldn't wait to get out of Essex myself, but I know Harlow is its own thing with its own culture, and it's quite unique in that respect. You know, it's a London new town. You know, a lot of rapid in migration, mostly from inner city London. You know, and I know kind of like maybe the culture between Harlow and say a place like Colchester may be quite significantly different, but I couldn't wait to escape, and I ended up in Norfolk for the rest of my life in Norwich, so it's just outside of Norwich. So the question I want to ask you really is, what made you come back? Am I missing something, or is there something quite that you quite liked, or was it what drew you back to saying, you know, I'm coming back down to kind of like the Essex Harwich area, Colchester Harwich area?
Yeah, good question. So we moved back end of 2022. So there's a little bit of post-COVID situation being in there. My wife is from really nearby as well, so it's quite convenient. But also Essex is fantastic. It's an amazing place with some amazing people. Colchester, the original city of the UK, phenomenal history.
Right.
All you have to do is dig down, and you'll find Roman hoards of gold, or a Roman chariot racing circus. Some astonishing things in Colchester, and beautiful countryside in Essex as well. It's much maligned, and I really blame Towie for a lot of that. But it's a place I'm really proud to be from here, and I'm proud to be working here. And I visit Essex, especially North Essex. That's the really nice bit.
Yeah,
but, much underestimated.
Yeah, there are some beautiful, you know, Essex does get a bad rap, and of course I don't want to project my kind of like personal experience, you know, to manifest itself as a whole stereotype of Essex, because it has enough stereotypes as it has, you know, and most of them are kind of like these kind of like old London urbanite kind of young hooligan kind of things, which is of course far from the truth. It's a stereotype, you know, and you didn't have to go far from. There are parts of Harlow which I absolutely loved, and surrounding Harlow which were absolutely so beautiful, and you know, not having to go too far away, and then you've got some beautiful countryside, and then and you say Colchester itself is such a vibrant place, and so much history and rich history. So it's definitely something worth having a look at. It's sometimes it's skipped over, folks. You know, some people say, oh, the only thing in Essex is you got the outskirts of London, then you got like Southend on Sea and Clacton, and that's it. It's like, no, there is a lot more to it than that. There's a lot more to it than that. So if you're visiting the UK, right, and you see London and everywhere else, but just because Essex is one of the home counties, don't ignore it. You know, there are some gems there. You know,
couldn't agree more.
One of the best. Yeah, Colchester Zoo is another great place to go to. You know, it's a bit touristy, but it's one of the best zoos in the country, in my opinion.
I spent loads of time at the zoo as a kid, and learned so much, and saw so many cool animals. It's just fantastic.
So, is there any part of Yorkshire then that you've brought back with you, and you feel like it's part of your identity now? So have you got this kind of like Essex, Yorkshire kind of? identity to you? Is there anything out there where you're like you miss and you're like you kind of thought that this
Well,
is now
I
part
did
of
a good job of dropping the accent pretty quick when I moved back.
me?
I think York will always be part of me, and Yorkshire more broadly. It's such, again, another amazing county, and enormous and really wide ranging. I miss the beaches of Yorkshire. There are some astonishing chalk cliffs with beautiful white
Yeah.
pebble beaches. They're just fantastic, and the people are lovely as well. But where I live now, we've got a little bit of everything around here that keeps me happy.
There you go, folks. So yeah, there you go. Essex is not just a stereotype, if it is. So it's great. So you're now doing this amazing work now. So how we met was we had our launch event at the University of East Anglia back in September, but I actually met you through someone I was kind of like a loose colleague with, and that's Chris Blinko. So hi, Chris. Hope you're doing well. I know you've like shoved on the podcast kind of chat over to Jonny. You didn't fancy it. That's fine. We'll try and get you on one other day. So yeah, Chris and I used to work across the hall from each other at the University of East Anglia's Enterprise Centre back in an old job of mine. And then he was telling me about this kind of amazing work that you two have been doing. And that time when I sat down in the cafe at the Enterprise Centre, and he was showing me all these wonderful, amazing graphs and all this kind of stuff to help folks with net zero. So I think now's a really, really good time, Jonny, to kind of take us a bit about who Opergy are and kind of like the work you've been doing, particularly with Chris, with regards to having a real strong community focus, because I think this is what's been lacking for ages. And you and Chris have clearly seen a niche in this, where there's so much of a national, perhaps regional picture in terms of going to net zero, but it kind of dismisses and forgets about the community level of things. And that's what I think the work that you and Chris have been doing is just so amazing. Yeah, so talk us a bit about Opergy as a group, and then how you got started with this whole, well, we want to do these kind of like net zero pathways for at the community parish level, and then we'll put a couple on the screen for people to show that you've been sharing. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the work you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Opergy, we're essentially clean energy consultants, and we do a lot of work on various different scales, be that big industrial sites and clusters, say across the northwest of the country, or as we're doing with pathways at a community level, at the place that you live, at a scale that's relevant to you as an individual and as a member of your community. I have to say it's far more than just me and Chris on this.
Yeah, I'd probably guess that.
I've
Yeah,
got several.
you two are the face of it for me. That's why.
Yeah, well, I've been talking to a lot of people about it, but there's a few people that I guess I'd like to mention. Andy Hololand, our sort of managing director as Opergy Net Zero, great vision for strategy and trying to get these things over the line. Sam Reed, brilliant colleague of mine who's really good at the mapping side of things, and Amelia, who's currently on maternity leave with twins, who dreamt up a lot of the methodology behind what we do.
Congratulations, Amelia.
Very happy to say she's very happy and healthy and loving being a new mum, which is really, really good. But Pathways was born out of some funding from the Norfolk Investment Framework. And Net Zero Pathways specifically was a project around 6 different communities in Norfolk. So Opergy's based just out of Norwich, so a bit of a Norfolk and local focus, recognising that decarbonisation is a local problem for a lot of people and places. And we're very much standing on the shoulders of giants with this work. I think we've seen nice work from the Tyndall Centre at UEA about say carbon budgets and how they break down national carbon budgets to sort of a district level, and we take that one step further and look at sort of towns and parishes and even sort of larger villages. And it's part of sort of trying to demystify those enormous numbers behind climate change. So we're currently putting out about 40 billion tons of CO2 every year.
Wow.
If you add on the non-CO2 effects, you get another 15, 20 billion tons on top of that. And as a result of that, the concept of an individual driving a bit less or getting a heat pump might feel just like less than a drop in the ocean. But it's really, really important to people and to places. I love where I live. I want it to be protected from the potential drawbacks of climate change that are here already. It was 40 degrees a couple of years ago. I don't know if everyone's forgotten that by now, but it's pretty scary to see wildfires where I grew up. So what we do, we take a community, a small place where people live, and do a carbon baseline. We work out where they're at, have a look at their sort of housing stock. We look across buildings, transport, agriculture, and land use. We do a baseline, see what the current situation is, look at the demographics, look at the different property types in the area, and try and just work out where a community is currently at. And then we talk to the community. We go out and say, right, this is your problem. This is what it means for you as a community, whether that be Thetford or Caister-on-Sea, Holt, Heatherset, these communities we did in the first round. This is what it means for you, but what do you want to do about it? What would work for you? What would work well to try and combat climate change and make your lives better in the process in your community?
Yeah.
So we take some feedback from the community, do that engagement, and we develop a pathway, various different interventions, and quantify the effects of those, and just show, actually, with a bit of concerted effort, we can get pretty close to net zero on a reasonable time frame in a way that makes most of our lives quite a lot better. And it's really a communications tool, fundamentally.
That is it. That when I was speaking to yourself and Chris beforehand, it was it was quite clear that was the key thing. It's communication. It's understanding communication, what's achievable, things like that. And you said it absolutely perfectly yourself with regards to this whole, well, I'm only one person, I can't make a difference, or my life is so dependent on X, Y, and Z. It is problematic for me to contribute in X, Y, and Z because those things and all of these things with all the big mass media about climate change all adds to anxiety and inaction and apathy. But what you folks at Opergy have done here is so great, and you've got the artwork to boot as well, which is so lovely. That you're showing these communities through consultation with them, so it's completely contextualized to them, and working with to say, well, these are the options for you, and this is what you can achieve as a community. And that's what's so great, and that's what's been so missing in the whole mitigation adaptation strategy to climate change. So yes, shall we? I mean, I've got Caister's one up here, and as you say, at the moment you've put on your website, all these folks are in Norfolk, folks. So we've got Elsham, Down the Market, Heatherset, Holt, Thetford, and Caister at the moment. But they're all. But it doesn't matter if you're in Norfolk or not, folks. Especially if you're an educator, these are so good educational tools, and I already have too much work to do already, but I would love to kind of like see how I could make some educational materials out of this. But so if we look at, so as Jonny's been saying, you've got the baseline kind of stuff here about the emissions, the kind of, well, what does this mean in terms of budgets, in terms of the Paris Agreement, how they've been working as a community, and I love this because I'm guessing this is all based on feedback, is it? So, I'm too old to worry about what can I do? The bus service went during clone, we want it back. Are these all responses from the community, that this cartoon is showing?
Yeah, these are all quotes that we got from people that we talked to on the
Nice.
ground in these communities we work for. And you can see from this, listeners won't be able to, if you're looking at the video feed, the fantastic artwork that just brings those quotes to life and brings those people to life and brings the places to life as well. Big shout out to Rebecca Osborne.
I thought I'd recognise the style. Yeah.
Phenomenal work. She can stand at the side of a conference hall and turn the most dull conference procedure into the most beautiful cartoon that really captures the essence of what was said. And she's done the same with our pathways work, and it really is a hook to get people to open up these reports. They're not small reports. They've got a lot of information in them, But feel good, and they feel good to read. Is what we're aiming for, at least.
Yeah. So, folks, if you're a regular listener, a long term listener, you know I've already spoke to Rebecca Osborne on my podcast as a friend of mine. And if you're new to the podcast, haven't listened to that, go and listen to that after listening to me and Jonny, of course. Go and listen to that chat with me and Rebecca and about how she does this stuff, like and on the fly during conferences and during talks. It's incredible. And it's here to obviously put something together for you where she's had a little bit more time, I guess. But yeah, the way she does it during while discussions are taking place is just outstanding. So let's have a look at. So I know we can spend the whole entire hour on this, Jonny, but let's just give a few highlights here. So we're starting here with what you was like the baseline you were saying, yeah. So what the journey is so far. So describe to people who are listening who may not be seeing this what we've got here on the first couple of pages, especially that I love that pie chart particularly.
Yeah, so we try and look at what's been done in the community before, if they've got, say, any active groups trying to do something about climate change in their community, and see what they've done already. We've recently done one for a pathway for Leiston, which was really a pioneering community in Suffolk. They've already had a carbon baseline a few years ago, so we revisited that recently, and that's all part of their journey and where they're going. We then go on to look at their emissions from the main sectors that matter and that people can actually do something about. Mostly this comes down to how people heat their houses and how people move around. Those are the main ones. So that's built environment and transport. But then there are two enabling factors in there as well, which is land use and agriculture, which for the footprint of Caister-on-Sea, you've got a slight negative emission from land use and a slight positive emission from agriculture. But agriculture is an amazing opportunity for feeding the planet, producing, say, biodiesel for powering some things that need a liquid fuel, but also for drawing down carbon through some more regenerative agricultural techniques. So these are the opportunities that a place like Caister, or like any of the others we did, have to draw down carbon to reach that sort of net position in 15, 20 years time, where there's still going to be some legacy emissions. We're not going to be able to eliminate everything, but if we can plant a few more trees, do some rewilding, and grow our food in a more sustainable way, we can put that net into net zero and really get there. We then have some comments from the community saying what they would like, what would make their lives better, because clean energy and net zero really is an upgrade on the existing systems. It doesn't just fight climate change. It really is an upgrade with loads of potential side benefits as well. So we talk about what people would like in their community, and then we factor that into the pathway that we create. So we go away, crunch some numbers, and see what's needed for that community and also what's wanted for that community. And we represent that graphically, showing that if you act in a concerted way, don't panic, but do crack on with things. We can get a long way to net zero by 2050 for these communities.
Yeah.
And then we set out the priority actions for that area. So for Caister here, they wanted to see some EV buses and to reduce waste with a zero waste drop and get some solar panels, and then the land use side of things, composting, allotmenting, tree planting. Passionate allotmenter here, passionate tree planter as well. These are great hooks to get people into the conversation. We know that planting a tree isn't going to solve climate change, but if we do a lot of the hard stuff like decarbonising transport and buildings, that tree really starts to matter in 25 years' time.
Yeah.
But also the connection that we can get with nature and with climate change, with the whole topic, just by planting a tree, going outside, planting a tree, that can really hopefully start people thinking about what they can do and what their community can do to make a difference.
Yeah, and you know what I love about this as well. So, folks, if for those of you listening who don't see the screen, so you've got the graph here, which is, and what I really love about this, it kind of like it just goes to show that if you start a certain time, you just take do a little bit each year, and then by the time you get to kind of like halfway between now and 2050, the kind of like the slope of the graph towards net zero accelerates a little bit because you've now got momentum. And then by the time you get to 2050, you can see actually you've got more stuff which is removing carbon in the area, which helps to offset the stuff that you're going to find it challenging. Because folks, if you can't see it, when by the time you get to this graph around about 2044, 2045, you'll see it's harder to keep going down because there's going to be some emissions. But then you've got the kind of like the negative kind of stuff then starts to counterbalance that, and to the point where you get to and it's a great visualization of what is meant by net zero, because I think there's a lot of misconception about that as well.
And what is meant isn't police knocking down your door and ripping out your boiler at
right.
We're not doing that. We're not promoting that. That's not going to happen. It's a transition. It's going to take time. And we talk about 2025 now. It's got 25 years to get to 2050. Yeah. Obviously, the sooner we do stuff, the better, and the sooner we can start getting those benefits. So the sooner we go to electric vehicles, the sooner we stop having localized air pollution outside schools. Why wouldn't we want
that? Right. Yeah,
there
exactly.
Are so many other benefits that are reasons to accelerate this. But if you want to keep driving your petrol car, if you want to keep having a gas boiler until 2050, you can. But hopefully, most people are going to embrace the transition, the benefits of that, clean power, clean energy, cleaner air. And hopefully, we can make a big dent. And this work puts it in context. So we've got 4,500 properties in Caister. Got a population of 8,500 people or so. These are tangible numbers that make sense to people, and they can see what impact they can have on those numbers in their community.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, you had a couple of pages of exposition there for people who want to know that stuff, like the national, status, what are the policy, the government policy, and that kind of stuff. But you've got some really good kind of like things for people to understand what is meant by a pathway, what is meant by net zero, how can we define a community? I spotted that as well. That's really important stuff. You know what? One of my favorite things, and I think was probably my favorite thing of what you folks have done. So you've got more stuff here that I'm showing here about how much land use, land types, type of agriculture. You've got some beautiful maps. I mean, this is folks, if you teach geography in the United Kingdom, right, this is an absolute gold dust, right? You could really get your teeth into this. And even if you're not in Norfolk, if these are not one of your local areas, you could still use this to say, okay, this is what they're doing. These are the, potential, but, can we create, how much can we do one of these for our own area? Perhaps not as deep because they're not, an organization like you, but can we put together like a little net zero pathway for our community? What would that look like? What is our man? So it's make a fantastic inquiry, especially maybe for the older kids, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. They could potentially do this as almost one of their NEAs, their non-examined assessments, possibly as one of their choices. It's so good. So yeah, we got transport. That's great. Where you've got the transport map where you can see the different kinds of roads there, and kind of like what that means. But my favorite, I'll go circling back now. My favorite is when you've got the examples of things. So after you've got all this stuff about what Caister is like, what you can do, and it's things like that, and its pathway. You then have, so you've got all your sections here, land use, built environment, your priorities. It's just so in depth. And now here you go. It's this one with the community projects. So how can we make a difference? Well, this is what we could do. If you plant 10 trees, you could remove 400 tons of carbon dioxide a year. You link it to the sustainable development goals. And you've got these things as well, where it's like, okay, here are some examples of what we can do and what this would mean for Caister. So you've got rewilding is one of your case studies. Domestic PV and heaters, and I just love the use of the Sustainable Development Goals again. EV charging. So yeah, subsidised installation, and so it's actually giving folks a blueprint. And you've got case studies to let people know this has been done, and so it can be done. So here, for example, with subsidised installation, you say, well, actually, just down the road in Suffolk, they have done X, Y, and Z. And so those discussions can start to be had between, people who've had some success or learnt from mistakes in the past, and how, people in Caister and and the district council around there and everything like that can get on board with this. It's just so good.
And with the case studies, that really hammers home a point that I thought this has been done before. With this, solving climate change is very broadly not a technological issue. We have the technology that we need to make an enormous difference. There might be 5% at the end that's going to be a bit more tricky, and we might need to wait for something else to come along. But for the broad part, we know what to do. But I say we that's me working in the energy industry. This is a method to try and translate some of what's been talked about at a higher level in the industry to people on the street who actually need to do these interventions. So need to change the way that they travel around, or how they heat their home. Trying to translate that broader look, and from a global perspective as well, what's happening in other countries and other geographies. Trying to translate that and what that means for someone on the street in Heatherset or anywhere else. We're not just focused on Norfolk. The initial project was Norfolk funded and Norfolk based, but we are rolling this out more broadly, trying to do more pathways for more places and have a bigger impact.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because I don't want anybody to switch off and think, oh, this sounds like it's only an East Anglia thing. But actually, no, it's not. And the case studies, I know a lot of the case studies are focusing on East Anglia because people in East Anglia want to know success in East Anglia. But there are some case studies there which are national, and things are taking place as well. So that's really important to know, folks. So keep an eye on this, most certainly. And I'll make sure I put a link in the description where you can investigate all of this kind of stuff, and then you can have this conversation with folks like Opergy with regards to, the possibility of this. It's just, it's so good. It's so impressive, Jonny. I just want, and from someone who has climate anxiety and tries to talk about positivity, hopefulness, community-based efforts, mitigation adaptation techniques, just this is amazing work. So thank you so much to you and the team, and I'm really excited to see where it goes next. So
Thank you.
it's something you can be proud of, I believe, and it can be done, folks. So whenever you get people call me both a pessimist and an optimist, right? It's really weird. I must be doing it right if I'm getting aggro from both sides, but when I keep saying that it is possible, these are the kind of things that I know is happening. So with regards to, let's stick with the theme of community, right? Because there is something, and do correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know if you set up this group, but there is something which I didn't make, which I wasn't aware of until I stumbled upon it. And then once I stumbled upon it, I noticed that when I clicked on my local one, which is Norwich at the moment, I saw your name on it. And that is this, folks. And it is something called People, Planet, and Pint. So, I mean, I know you're not a spokesman for Small 99, which is the charity that runs this, but you're the only one I know who knows about this. So this is really cool. What's this whole People, Planet, Pint? How did you find out about it? And what's it all about? Because it is a national thing. So if you're in the UK, folks, you can set up one of these anywhere in the country and get cracking on it. So what is this?
How did I find out about it? I think I stumbled across it on. Oh, I think it was just random on Eventbrite, and I found the Colchester one, and I had no idea about it either. Hopefully, as a result of this conversation, a few more people do know about it. I think it's absolutely wonderful, and I run the Norwich People Planet Pint, but they are everywhere. They are expanding, not just nationally, internationally. If you're on holiday in Hawaii at the right time, then maybe you can go to the one in Hawaii or the Singapore
it's international,
one,
is it?
or the Auckland one. Yeah, it's all over the world, and it's credit to Adam and Julie and the team at Small 99. It's just a way of getting people who are passionate about the planet together.
Oh yeah, Nigeria.
And the pint is free, which is always a nice little bonus. And There is also an alternative version, which is People Planet Pastry, which are sort of hosted more in cafes, and you get a free croissant. But it's just an opportunity for people to come together and have a chat.
This is so
As
good.
running the Norwich one, there's some incredibly talented people in Norwich, and there's some incredibly well-meaning people in Norwich. And we know through the work that we do at Opergy, we bring people together, and this People Planet Pint is just another way of doing that. So anyone in Norwich or near Norwich, please do come along to the next one, which I think after this goes out will be the 2nd of April.
Yes,
but
this one would be gone by the time this goes out. The 5th of February would have been gone by the time you're listening to this, folks. So there's one in April. So was it every 2 months?
roughly every 2 months, usually the first Wednesday of that month.
Okay.
I put it out on LinkedIn, and there's an email chain goes out from Small 99 to advertise these. If you're not near Norwich, there might be one near you already. If you're not near Norwich and there isn't one near you, just start one. Just send an email to Small 99. You need a venue, a time, and just to turn up. And they are super helpful and super easy to start and run. And you never know what you're going to find at a People Planet Pint.
I've got a challenge then for everybody. Let's get a People Planet Pint or pastry within no more than, say, a 15-minute commute, preferably by public transport, right? From everybody. And climate ambassadors, if you're listening to this is something you can do. If I know a lot of people have been saying to us, regional hub managers, us climate ambassadors would love something where we meet together and stuff like this, right? Well, this would be a perfect way to do it, right? So perhaps perhaps I'm going to suggest to the other regional hub managers is that we kind of like see if we can kind of get people starting this. I mean, we can't run everything as regional hub managers, but you've already got one in Norwich, for example. So I mean, so I've noticed that Small 99 gets sponsorship, and then they use that sponsorship money to give a little bit of money to a host venue who will then give you a free pint or pastry. Is that right?
They pick up the bar tab. The sponsor is a company called Crystal. I think they do sort of green web hosting, and it's so easy to run. I start a tab at the start of the night, and at the end I get the receipt and I send it off to Small 99, and I get the money back, and that's paid for by Crystal. They make it so easy. I can't stress that enough. Just
right.
if you like popping to the pub or going to a cafe and talking with people, just start one. You've absolutely got nothing to lose.
This is great. This is fantastic. Right. What are we going to do now? There's so much we could talk about, and we're already at since 40 minutes. It's ridiculously great conversation. Right. I'll tell you what we'll do. Well, first thing we'll do is that I think we're going to spill the beans first. Okay. So, yeah, I want you to tell us to spill the beans, right? What is this about you being top 50 in a Tiddlywinks ranking or something like that? Is it national ranking, but you were top 50?
I was just outside the top 50 in the world at competitive Tiddlywinks, which always gets that reaction.
I love it. No, it's a skill. If anyone's played Tiddlywinks, it's not easy.
It was good fun. I didn't do it for long, and it was a complete fluke that I got in the world ranking. And let it be clear, there aren't 8 billion people in the world ranking. I think when I was 50 something, there are about 80 total. So not a legend of the sport, absolutely. But no, I ended up living with a guy who was involved with Tiddlywinks. It came out of Cambridge University. They're a bit weird there, and yeah, they just love it. And I went along to a tournament, played a pairs tournament with. I was playing alongside the second best Tiddlywinker in the world.
Wow!
Which claim to fame. Just had some fun. Yeah, there's not really much else I can say other than it's a bit weird but quite fun. It's Tiddlywinks.
I think though, for people who are not sure, I mean, we're assuming, of course, everybody knows what tiddlywinks is, but I think it's probably a good idea to just briefly explain what it is, because it's like, what's tiddlywinks? Is it family friendly? It's like, yeah. So you feel better when we explain what it is.
Yeah, many a non-family friendly euphemism available through tiddlywinks, but we'll focus on the family friendly side, which is it's a kids game to start with, and you have a
Yeah.
little pot in the middle of a table, and some small plastic, hopefully soon recycled plastic counters, and you use a big bit of plastic to try and flick the small bits of plastic into the pot. It's as simple
Yep.
as that. And yeah, lots of nice bright colours playing tiddlywinks. But yeah, the fine people of Cambridge University decided to try and claim it was a sport and make it competitive. They even have
that debate, eh?
they even
Well,
have a
we might see
quarter
it in the
colours award.
Olympics. See it in the Olympic, but they're breakdancing in the Olympics. Why not have tiddlywinks?
It could be the next big thing, couldn't it? Where's the
Could
next
so
Olympics?
be.
We'll get it on the cards for LA,
Get it on
isn't
the
it? So
cards.
we'll get it on the cards for that.
Yeah. But it really is actually, yeah, it's just they're coloured discs, folks, and you have to kind of like flick them into the pot. And if you get them into the pot, you get max points. If you get, and then there's like zones of different scores and stuff like that. And you see there's different variations of them. Like there's one which looks like a blue block of cheese, where if you get them in certain holes, you get certain points. But yeah, it is an institution, and you can see, folks who can see the screen here, you can see there's some very old, packaging from, I don't know, looking back in the 20s or 30s. I wonder how old how old is Tiddlywinks?
That's a
Oh,
good
that's a
question.
good question.
I think the competitive stuff goes back to about the 50s or something like that.
The competitive stuff. Well, years active, 1888 to present. That's what according to Wikipedia. But okay, it must go back longer than that. But yeah, you're right. Look, the competitive game of Tiddlywinks made a strong comeback at the University of Cambridge in 1955. So there you go, folks.
Yeah, it's very weird, and it's a good fact to say when people want a fun fact about you. I think hopefully your listeners agree.
It's great.
But they take it incredibly seriously, and it's
I
like
bet they do.
it's like 3D chess, and you can get your counter on top of someone else's counter, and then they can't touch it, and then you can try and bombard their stacks with other counters to try and free yours. It's intense. It's really, really intense, but good
Very
fun.
good. I like it. Okay, so let's go from the, I don't know, the ridiculous to the sublime, back to ridiculous again. I don't know. So we do have one listener question for you, Jonny, from friend and ex podcast guest and ex president of the Geographical Association, Alan Parkinson. He wants to ask you this question, Jonny. So this question is because because I gave a little hint that this person likes food who I'm talking to. Didn't give much other detail. Instead of asking a question about net zero or asking a question about your chemistry background or energy, stuff like that, he decides to ask you, what is your favorite sandwich filling and how bad is it for the planet? Thanks, Alan.
Oh, what a good question. What would be my favorite sandwich filling? It's like children, right? You can't choose between sandwich fillings. I guess going with the hipster high quality coffee that I'm drinking at the moment. Don't mind an avocado, which is quite good link to the planet side of things, because there's so many problems with farming those in California and the water supply for those.
Water use, yeah.
So I think for purpose of the podcast conversation, I'll go for a bit of smashed avocado on a bit of toast instead of as a sandwich.
Yep, and all the problems that brings.
All the problems.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I am not a fan of this whole like the benefits of climate change narrative that sometimes gets peddled and sometimes we see in like textbooks and exam questions stuff like that. But I tell you what, one of the positives, if there are any, it's like maybe we'll grow avocados here in the UK at some point, but that does not negate the complete nuts that's going to happen to have my avocado sandwich. So
tell you what, there's a benefit to the clean power that could power combating climate change, that being geothermal. In Iceland, they grow bananas in heated greenhouses. So they've probably got avocados too, right? So there's possibility, if we can get some advanced geothermal up and running in the UK, maybe we can have geothermally heated bananas and avocados.
That's two things I've learned for the first time now in one podcast. Oh, okay, right. So potential bananas and great. Oh, that would be such a great question, wouldn't it? You know, where in the world are bananas or avocados grown? And then you like get that pin on Iceland and get that investigation going. But that makes sense, actually. They got well, why wouldn't they use the geothermal? Anyway, we can go off on down a rabbit hole now, can't we? Oh, right.
Just on the benefits of climate change, that is it's a bit of a trope that gets bandied around. We did some workshops, some sort of climate change and carbon literacy workshops, and I looked through a certain sort of manifesto of a political party in the UK, and the positives being that we can grow grapes in the UK.
No.
And there are some fantastic vineyards near me, and there were some fantastic vineyards in Yorkshire in the Roman times. But all you have to do is look through the historical temperature records and see that we are now post-warming on a similar level to Yorkshire back 2,000 years ago, and we are going well beyond that. It's just going to keep going up and up. So grapes in Yorkshire for now, and not in the future.
Yeah, fluctuations in global temperature during the Roman times and the medieval warm period and the Little Ice Age, all that kind of stuff does pale into absolute insignificance when it comes to what we're doing to the planet today. We should put it this way: we should not. It's people say, "I used to be warmer back then, or cooler back, or warm back then," but that's not the point. It's like right now we shouldn't be as warm as we are right now. That's the point, and we're outside of our climate comfort zone that where we should be anyway. So as I say, another rabbit hole we can go down to. But yeah, I despise the whole positives. It's like, oh, it doesn't matter that you're all vulnerable people living on a floodplain that's flooding more regularly. As long as I've got my British glass of wine, no, it doesn't. That doesn't fly, in my opinion. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Anyway, let's bring this brilliant chat to a close now, Jonny, with the classic. We are all geographers, and I have a confession to make. For the first time, folks, in 5 seasons, the host has broken the chain of We Are All Geographers. You may have, the keen-eared of you from last week, folks, would have noticed I forgot to ask Rachel Null for her word to give to Jonny to speak for 30 seconds. I broke the chain after 117 episodes, Jonny. Oh my goodness. But thanks to Rachel, she has saved my rear end, right? Because in a panic, I texted her and emailed her just to double sure I got her reply from her, right? To said, Rachel, I forgot at the end of your chat to ask you about the word you were going to give to the next guest. So for 30 seconds, Rachel talked about the word risk, which was given to her by the guest before her. And then I just went straight on to closing the podcast. Fortunately, I've got an email from Rachel. And I'm not going to lie, 26 minutes ago. While we were chatting, Jonny.
Rachel saved the day.
She saved the day. Right. Okay. So, folks, and Rachel has now, post-podcast recording, has given the word or the term for Jonny to talk about for 30 seconds of AI, artificial intelligence, AI. So, Jonny, that's what you've got to talk about for 30 seconds. You've got to talk about AI for 30 seconds. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Born ready.
Go for it.
Amazing week for this question. AI is massively over the news this week because of the DeepSeek AI launched in China, which is running off of a fraction of the power required by these bloated US models run by OpenAI, for example. This is an incredible news for the climate. It could mean that we can have all the benefits of AI and we can learn things more quickly and everything else it could do for us, but without consuming the high levels of power that people in the energy industry are running around scared about.
Wow, that turned out really well. That kind of like, I'll save your AI, and then you just come up with that. That's brilliant. Okay, yeah, I haven't really looked into too much of the news about the Chinese AI system, but that's definitely one that's worth exploring. Right, before I forget, Jonny, what is your word that you want the next guest to have a go at for 30 seconds? Anything you like.
anything at all.
I know that makes it harder, not easier, doesn't it?
I'm a big fan of trying to bring the arts in, as we talked about with Rebecca Osborne's wonderful artwork with our Net Zero Pathways work. So I would like the next guest to talk about poetry.
Nice.
It's a challenge.
We're going to go poetry. Okay, and I'm jotting that down now in the spreadsheet so I don't panic and think I forgot to ask Johnny last time. Right, that's fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So we've already given some wonderful shout outs to Chris and to your colleagues at Opergy. You can double up on those shout outs. You can give them another shout, or is there anyone else you'd like to give a shout out to?
I would just double up on the shout out to Amelia and her two twins. Big shout out to them.
Amelia.
We're looking forward to having Amelia back and to meeting the twins.
Yeah, good luck. Best of wishes with the twins, Amelia. I mean, we've got 2 kids separated by 2 years, and that was enough for us. But to have twins, it's all power to you, Amelia. And make sure that these boys look after you when you get back to work. All right, babysitting, bit of kind of on in-house creche or something.
we had 4 dogs in the office the other day, so it can't be any worse than
nice. Well, we'll let Amelia let you know about whether it is or isn't. Bless her. I'm sure she's proud as punch. Okay, and in terms of people getting in touch with you, so we know we've got climate ambassadors. Obviously, it's quite clearly the kind of things that you can do. We've kind of like, if you've got schools in these communities, particularly these communities where you've worked already, Thetford, Caister, Leiston, and Aylsham, etc. So obviously, easy win there. But in terms, if anyone wants to get in contact with you, other than through the Climate Ambassador scheme, what's the best way to get hold of you? Is it LinkedIn or through Opergy or however?
Both those two. There's some contact details on our website, but also I'm always on LinkedIn. So drop me a message on there. I'll be very happy to chat. And best way to get in touch with me is to come along to People Planet Pint, and we can have a drink together and have a chat.
You've done this before, haven't you? You've done the podcasting and radio before, haven't you?
Ever podcast.
You're a natural. You're a natural. Right. Okay, folks. So there you go. There you have it. So thank you so much, Jonny. I've really, really enjoyed this chat, and I'm looking forward to continue to working with you through the Climate Ambassador scheme.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for having me. It's been really good fun.